Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 155 of our Bible plan. And today we're going to be looking at the book of Job, chapters 11 through to chapter 13. So, chapter 11 really begins with one of Job's friends, Zophar, the Namathite, speaking to him. He's basically responding to what Job was talking about in the previous chapter, chapter 10. So he basically says that he's tired of listening to Job complaining and whining. He even goes as far as to say that God is definitely punishing him, but he's punishing him far less than he actually deserves. He even reminds Job that the mysteries of God, together with the knowledge of knowing who God is much, much bigger than what Job can comprehend. Plus, he even explains that God, as a judge, once he has judged, no one can stop his judgment. But I like what he does also in that chapter, in the 13th verse. He even though he's saying all these things that he's saying to his friend Job, but he reminds Job that when all is said and done, you need to prepare your heart, raise your hands, so you can pray to God. And then when we move to chapter 12, now we see Job responding initially to Zophar, but he's really responding to all his friends who were speaking to him in this season of his life. He reminds his friends that whatever it is they are telling him right now is nothing new. He already knows this. But interestingly enough, he continues to tell them that he believes he's blameless. He doesn't deserve any of the stuff that's happening to him. But then he goes on to further explain that everything is in God's hands. This includes good people and bad people, animals, the earth, even fish in the sea. In fact, all power and wisdom are God's. This is what Job is saying here in chapter 12 to his friends. In fact, he even goes further to say God builds and destroys people. He builds and destroys things. He builds and destroys nations, all at will. In fact, my favorite is that he even goes on to say that God gives people the status that they enjoy. Whether you are a priest, whether you are some big government official, he goes on to say God gives these people the status, and he can take it all whenever he feels like it. This is Job responding to his friends, and it almost to say that he's reminding them that we can all talk whatever we want, but God will always do what he wants because he's a sovereign God. And then lastly, chapter 13, we see that Job is continuing with his response to his friends, but this time the tone changes a little bit, almost aggressive, at least in my view. In fact, it just goes into it and says he wants to speak directly to God about this situation that he finds himself in. He wants to speak to God himself, for himself. And then he goes on to remind his friends that, you guys, all you've been doing is just speak lies about me. In fact, you're just as worthless as all the physicians that existed in those times. Basically telling them to shut up. In fact, he told them that twice in that chapter. But what I liked also is that he then asked them to stop speaking and just be silent and leave him alone, so he can go and address his case with God and then face the consequences that will come thereafter. He even went as far as to tell them that one of the things that he knows for sure will save him, should God grant him the opportunity to speak to him and state his case, is that he's not a godless person. He actually has a God. In this case, the very same God happens to be the one to whom he wants to take his case. I kind of liked that confidence. And then, of course, at the end of the chapter, it ends with him saying what to me looks like a little prayer. Now, definitely asking God for the opportunity to come before him and state his case. Basically, just praying a nice prayer of respect and reverence to God, that may he please grant him the opportunity to discuss this very urgent current matter that he finds himself in. And that, ladies and gentlemen, leads me to the verse that actually stood out for me as I was going through these chapters and trying to summarize what they're about. And this is the verse comes in this very last chapter, chapter 13, and it's the third verse. And I was reading it from the NLT version of the Bible, and it reads thus: "As for me, I would speak directly to the Almighty. I want to argue my case with God himself. I want to argue my case with God himself." That's deep, very deep. This dude has some crazy humility. In fact, I call it crazy humility for a number of reasons, and some of these reasons we will share them in the meeting later this afternoon. So please do make sure you come through to our Zoom meetings. But two things jump out at me in this phase. One, with his troubles, he has crazy confidence to ask God about it. With everything going on, he's like, as for me, I'm blameless, and I'm willing to go and stand up for myself in front of God. Almost reminding us here, in case we had forgotten, that in Job 1, verse 1, this entire book of Job opens with us being told that he was blameless before God. He was a man of complete integrity. And in this right here, verse 3 of chapter 13, he almost says it with confidence that, yeah, I know that. And it's because of that, I want to go in front of God and ask him, why is this happening to me? Number two, and which is the last thing that jumped out at me, is that he did not need a middleman. I'll repeat. He did not need a middleman. He did not need an advocate. There's a few people I know in the Christian circles that we find ourselves in, that there's a few people that need an advocate to go argue their case before God. And we learn about those people briefly in the book of 1 John chapter 2, verses 1 to 2. We get a glimpse of who those people are. But in this case, Job is not one of them. He did not need a middleman. He wanted to go argue his case himself with God directly. Crazy humility. That's what I call it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, leads us to the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you later this afternoon in our Zoom meeting. Thank you.